There's no room for you, old parasite. The words came out of Tiffany's mouth like venom, her perfectly manicured finger pointing at me as if I were some kind of vermin that had crawled into my own living room. My son Brandon stood beside her, his eyes avoiding mine, his silence more painful than any words could have been. I stood there in the doorway of the beach house I had built with my own 2 hands, every nail, every plank, every coat of paint a testament to 40 years of nursing shifts and sacrifice, and watched as this woman who had been in my family for barely 5 years called me a parasite. "You heard me," Tiffany continued, her voice rising. "This house is too much for you to handle alone. You're clearly losing it, Evelyn. Yesterday you left the stove on. Last week you forgot about your doctor's appointment. It's time to face facts. You need to be in a home where people can watch you." My hands trembled, not from age or fear, but from the rage I was forcing myself to contain. The stove incident. I had turned it off, I was certain of it. But later I found the knob had been turned back on, just slightly. The doctor's appointment I forgot? I found my reminder card torn up in the bathroom trash can that very morning, right after Brandon and Tiffany arrived for their surprise visit. "Brandon," I said quietly, looking at my son, my only child, the boy I raised alone after his father died when he was just 3 years old. "Brandon, you're going to let her speak to your mother this way? In my own house?" He finally met my eyes, and what I saw there broke something inside me. Guilt, yes, but also calculation. Cold, hard calculation. "Mom," he said, and his voice had that patient tone people use with children or the senile. "Tiffany's right. We're worried about you. We think it's time to discuss your options. We've been looking at some really nice assisted living facilities." "Assisted living?" I laughed, a harsh sound even to my own ears. "I'm 71 years old, not 90. I walk 3 miles every morning. I volunteer at the church. I manage my own finances. What exactly do I need assistance with?" "Your finances," Tiffany said. And there it was, the real reason for this intervention. "Brandon told me about your accounts. You have over $400,000 in savings, plus this house worth at least $800,000, and you're living like a pauper. It's not healthy. Someone needs to manage your money properly." "Someone like you?" I asked. "Someone who knows what they're doing," she shot back. "Brandon and I have been struggling. His business expansion needs capital. We have Harper and Noah's college funds to think about. Meanwhile, you're sitting on all this money you're never going to spend. It's selfish, Evelyn. It's time to think about your family." I thought about my grandchildren, 8-year-old Harper and 6-year-old Noah, who I hadn't seen in 3 weeks because Brandon kept making excuses about why they couldn't visit. I thought about the last time I had seen them, when Noah whispered that he missed me and Harper asked why Grandma couldn't come to her school play anymore. "So, this is about money," I said slowly. "This is about what's best for everyone," Brandon said. "Mom, we've already talked to a lawyer. If you're declared mentally incompetent, we can get power of attorney. We can make sure you're taken care of properly and that your assets are managed responsibly." The blood drained from my face. They had already talked to a lawyer. This wasn't just greed, this was a plan. A calculated, carefully orchestrated plan to take everything I had worked for. "Get out," I said. "Mom, get out of my house!" I screamed, and the force of it made them both step back. "This is my home. I built it. I paid for it. And you—" I looked at Brandon, my voice breaking. "You are not your father. He would be ashamed of you." Tiffany's face turned red. "You stupid old woman. We're trying to help you, and you're too senile to see it. Fine. We'll do this the hard way. Come on, Brandon." They left, but Tiffany turned at the door. "Enjoy your independence while it lasts, Evelyn. In 2 weeks, we're filing the incompetency petition. By the end of the month, you'll be in Shady Oaks, and this house will be sold. You can't fight us. You're just one confused old lady with no proof of anything." The door slammed. I stood there in my living room, surrounded by the photographs of Brandon's childhood, his first day of school, his graduation, his wedding to that monster, and felt tears streaming down my face. But they were not tears of defeat, because what they didn't know was that I had already been planning. They didn't know that this 71-year-old woman had been documenting everything. They didn't know about the cameras I had installed, the conversations I had recorded, the lawyer I had already consulted. They thought they could discard me like an old piece of furniture, but they underestimated the woman who built her world from nothing. They were about to learn a very expensive lesson. The morning walks were my favorite part of the day. I would wake up at 6 a.m., make my coffee, black, no sugar, the way I'd been drinking it since I was a young nurse working double shifts, and head down to the beach. The sunrise over the Atlantic was never the same twice, and at my age, you learn to appreciate the things that remind you you're still alive. That particular morning in late July was perfect. The air was cool, the beach nearly empty except for a few other early risers. I saw my friend Ruth near the pier and waved. "Evelyn!" She jogged over, her silver hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Ruth was 73, but moved like someone 20 years younger. "Have you heard from Brandon lately?" I smiled, though it felt forced even then. "He called last week. Said they're thinking about expanding his construction business. Wants to open a second location." Ruth's expression changed, became careful. "And? Did he ask you for money?" "Not yet," I said. But I could hear it coming. Tiffany was in the background talking about family investments and helping each other out. We walked in silence for a moment. Ruth had been my friend since nursing school in 1972. She knew my whole history, how I'd worked myself to the bone to raise Brandon alone, how I'd saved every penny to buy this land and build this house. She also knew about the first time Brandon had asked to borrow money, 6 months after he married Tiffany. That $15,000 was never paid back. "You need to protect yourself," Ruth said. "I'm serious, Evelyn. I've seen this before. My cousin Eleanor? Her daughter did the same thing. Started with small requests, then moved to questioning her mental state. By the time Eleanor realized what was happening, her daughter had power of attorney and Eleanor was in a nursing home. Brandon married a woman who sees dollar signs instead of people," Ruth interrupted. "I'm sorry, honey, but you need to hear this. That woman looks at you and sees a bank account, not a mother-in-law. And your son? He's too weak to stand up to her." The words stung because they were true. I had seen the change in Brandon over the past 5 years. The sweet, thoughtful boy I raised had become someone I barely recognized. Someone who called less, visited less, and only seemed interested when the conversation turned to my finances. "What do I do?" I asked. "First, you go see a lawyer. Today. Get your affairs in order. Make sure everything is locked down tight. Second, you start documenting everything. Every conversation, every visit, every request for money. And third," she gripped my arm, "you stop hoping he'll be the son you raised. That boy is gone. Now you need to protect yourself from the man he's become." I didn't want to believe her. I spent the rest of that walk trying to convince myself she was wrong. But when I got home and checked my WhatsApp, I'd finally let Noah teach me how to use it the last time he visited. I saw a message from Brandon. "Mom, can we come by this weekend? Need to talk about something important." My stomach dropped. Ruth's words echoed in my head. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where Brandon had done his homework every night, and I made a decision. I called my lawyer. Thomas Fitzgerald had handled my will and property deeds for 20 years. He was 65, semi-retired, and sharp as a tack. "Evelyn," he said when his secretary put me through, "what can I do for you?" "Tom, I need to protect myself from my son." There was a pause. "Tell me everything." I did. I told him about the loan that was never repaid, about how Brandon's visits had become less frequent, but his requests for money had increased, about Tiffany's comments about my wasting money on my house when I could be helping family, about Ruth's warning. "Smart friend you have there. Tom said when I finished. Evelyn, I'm going to be blunt. What you're describing is a classic setup for elder financial abuse. It usually follows a pattern: isolation, questioning competency, then legal action to gain control of assets. What do I do? First, we make sure your will is ironclad and includes a no-contest clause. Second, we set up your assets in a trust that can't be touched without your explicit, documented consent. Third, and this is important, you get a full cognitive assessment from a neurologist. Get it in writing that you're of sound mind. Fourth, you start keeping a journal. Document every interaction with your son and daughter-in-law. What if they try to have me declared incompetent anyway? With proper documentation, they'll fail. But Evelyn, I have to ask, are you prepared for this to get ugly? I thought about Harper and Noah, about Brandon, about the life I'd imagined for my golden years, surrounded by family, not fighting them. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. The weekend visit was tense. Brandon and Tiffany arrived on Saturday morning, and I had my phone in my pocket, recording every word. It was legal in my state, single-party consent, and Tom had advised me to document everything. Mom, your house is looking worn down, Brandon said, walking through my living room with a critical eye. The paint is chipping. The deck needs repairs. This is too much house for one person. I manage fine, I said calmly. But for how long? Tiffany chimed in. Evelyn, you're 71. What happens when you can't handle the stairs? What if you fall and no one's here to help? I have an emergency alert system, I said, and I'm in better shape than most 50-year-olds. Still, Brandon said, and I heard the rehearsed quality in his voice. We worry. We think you should consider selling. You could get a nice condo, something more manageable, and the money from the sale could help. Well, it could be useful. Useful for what? I asked, though I already knew. For the family, Tiffany said. Brandon's business needs capital. We're trying to build something for Harper and Noah's future. You always said you wanted to leave something for your grandchildren. I do, I said. That's why I have a will. But why make them wait until you're gone? She pressed. Why not enjoy seeing your legacy help us while you're still alive? Because it's my money, I said simply. I earned it. I saved it. And I'm not selling my house. The temperature in the room dropped. Brandon's jaw tightened. I recognized that look from when he was a teenager and didn't get his way. Mom, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You're asking me to sell my home and give you the money so you can expand a business that might fail. That's not reasonable. My business won't fail, Brandon snapped. Neither did your father's, I said quietly. Until it did. That's why we lost everything when you were 3. That's why I worked 60-hour weeks for 40 years. I love you, Brandon, but I will not risk my security for anyone's business venture. They left shortly after, and the look Tiffany gave me was pure hatred. That night, I joined a WhatsApp group that Ruth had told me about, Silver Warriors, a group of women our age who supported each other through family conflicts and elder abuse situations. There were 12 of us, all between 65 and 80, all dealing with ungrateful children or predatory relatives. My daughter took out credit cards in my name, wrote one woman named Dorothy. My son forged my signature on a reverse mortgage, wrote another named Patricia. I typed my story and the responses came flooding in. Document everything. Get cameras. Don't trust anyone with your passwords. Find a good lawyer now. These women became my lifeline over the next few weeks. They shared strategies, legal resources, and most importantly, they believed me. They understood what I was going through because they'd lived it. 2 weeks after that tense visit, Brandon called. Mom, the kids want to see you. Can we bring them by tomorrow? My heart leapt. I missed Harper and Noah desperately. Of course, I'll make cookies. But when they arrived, something felt off. Brandon and Tiffany stayed in the living room while the kids were rushed through a quick hello before being sent to play in the yard. "Mom, we need to talk," Brandon said. "About what?" "About your future. About getting you some help." "I don't need help." "Yes, you do." Tiffany pulled out a folder. "We've been documenting concerning behaviors. You forgot your doctor's appointment last month. You left your stove on twice. You repeated the same story 3 times during our last visit." My blood ran cold. "That's not true." "It is true, Mom," Brandon said, and he actually looked sad. "We're worried about you. We think you might be showing early signs of dementia." "I am not." "We've already consulted with a lawyer," Tiffany interrupted, "and we think it's time to consider guardianship, for your own protection." I sat there, stunned. Guardianship. They wanted to strip away my autonomy, my rights, my control over my own life. "Get out," I said. "Mom, get out!" They left, taking Harper and Noah with them. I saw my granddaughter's confused face looking back at me through the car window, and I broke down crying. But the tears didn't last long. I called Tom immediately. "They're moving faster than I thought," he said. "Okay. Here's what we do. Tomorrow morning, you're going to see Dr. Helena Kowalski. She's a neurologist, and she specializes in competency evaluations. We need documentation that you're of sound mind before they file anything." The evaluation took 3 hours. Dr. Kowalski was thorough. Memory tests, cognitive assessments, motor skill evaluations. When it was over, she smiled. "Mrs. Walsh, you're sharper than most 40-year-olds I see. Your memory is excellent, your cognitive function is well above average for your age group, and you show no signs of dementia or cognitive decline. I'll have the full report ready in 2 days, but I can tell you right now, you're perfectly competent." I cried again, but this time from relief. The report was 15 pages long and unequivocal. Tom immediately filed it with the court as a preemptive measure. "If they try to file for guardianship now," he explained, "we have evidence dated before their filing showing you're competent. It'll kill their case before it starts." But I knew it wouldn't stop them. And I was right. A week later, I got a call from my credit card company. Someone had tried to open a new card in my name. The application was denied because of the fraud alert I'd placed on my credit report, another suggestion from the Silver Warriors group. I pulled up the security footage from my hidden cameras. Yes, I'd installed them after Ruth's advice, and saw Tiffany in my home office, going through my filing cabinet. The timestamp was from her last visit when she'd excused herself to use the bathroom. She'd been searching for my financial documents. I sent the footage to Tom immediately. "That's attempted identity theft," he said. "This is escalating, Evelyn. They're getting desperate." The next morning, during my walk with Ruth, I told her everything. "You need to cut them off completely," she said. "No more visits. No more conversations unless your lawyer is present. They're dangerous, Evelyn. But Harper and Noah will be fine. And if Brandon and Tiffany are willing to abuse you, do you really want them controlling your access to those kids? Because that's what they'll do if they get power over you." She was right. Again. That afternoon, I sent Brandon a formal letter through Tom's office, stating that all future communication must be in writing and through my attorney. I changed all my locks. I updated my will to explicitly state that if any beneficiary contests the will or attempts to have me declared incompetent, they forfeit their entire inheritance. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, which brings us back to that awful confrontation, they showed up at my door with their ultimatum and their threat to file the incompetency petition. After they left, I sat in my living room and reviewed everything I had: the recordings, the footage of Tiffany stealing documents, the neurologist's report, the credit card fraud attempt, the journal I'd kept of every incident. Tom came over that evening. "They're going to file," I said. "What happens next?" "Next, we fight. And, Evelyn," he smiled grimly, "we win. They have no case, no medical evidence, No witnesses to your alleged incompetence. What they do have is a pattern of financial exploitation attempts that we can document. When this goes to court, they're not just going to lose. They're going to be exposed. What about Harper and Noah? His expression softened. That's trickier. But Evelyn, if we can prove their parents attempted to defraud you, that might give you grounds for grandparents' rights visitation. It's not guaranteed, but it's possible. I made my decision then. I would fight. Not just for my house or my money, but for my dignity, for my grandchildren, for every elderly person who'd been discarded by the children they'd sacrificed everything to raise. The next morning, I went to my walk and found Ruth with 2 other women from our WhatsApp group. "We heard," Ruth said. "We're here for you." Dorothy, who'd dealt with credit card fraud from her daughter, hugged me. "You've got this, honey. They think we're weak because we're old. They're about to learn different." Patricia, whose son had forged documents, added, "My court case is next month. I've got evidence, just like you. These young people think we're too stupid or too scared to fight back. Time to prove them wrong." Standing there on the beach, I loved, surrounded by women who understood. I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. The petition was filed 3 days later. Brandon and Tiffany claimed I was suffering from dementia, that I was a danger to myself, that I was unable to manage my finances or my property. They requested emergency guardianship with them as co-guardians. Tom filed our response immediately. He attached Dr. Kowalski's report, my financial records showing perfectly managed accounts, and a statement from my volunteer coordinator at the church stating I was reliable, punctual, and mentally acute. He also filed a countermotion, alleging elder financial abuse and requesting a restraining order preventing Brandon and Tiffany from contacting me or entering my property. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. Those 2 weeks were hell. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I walked the beach for hours, trying to process that my own son, my child, whom I'd loved and sacrificed everything for, was trying to steal my life from me. The Silver Warriors kept me sane. They sent messages of support every day. They shared their stories, their victories and defeats. They reminded me I wasn't alone. Ruth came over every evening with dinner. "You're going to survive this," she said. "And when it's over, you're going to rebuild your life without them in it." "I don't know if I can," I admitted. "You're Evelyn Walsh. You raised a child alone while working full-time as a nurse. You built this house with your own hands. You survived your husband's death and bankruptcy and 40 years of hard labor. You can survive this." The day before the hearing, I got an unexpected call. "Grandma?" My heart stopped. "Harper?" "I took Mom's phone," she whispered. "I'm not supposed to call you. Mom and Dad said you're sick and that we can't see you anymore until you're better." "Baby, I'm not sick." "I know," she said. "I heard them talking. Dad said you're being stubborn and that they need to teach you a lesson. Grandma, I miss you. Noah cries at night because he wants to see you." I was crying now, too. "I miss you both so much. Are we going to see you again?" "I hope so, sweetheart. I'm fighting very hard to make that happen." "Fight hard, Grandma. Please." The call ended abruptly, probably Tiffany discovering Harper had the phone, but it gave me renewed strength. The hearing was at 9 a.m. on a Thursday. I wore my best dress, pearl earrings my late husband had given me on our 10th anniversary, and my lucky watch. Tom met me outside the courthouse. "Remember," he said, "let me do the talking. Stay calm. Don't let them provoke you." Brandon and Tiffany were already inside with their lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. They didn't look at me. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Gonzalez. She reviewed the filings with a careful expression. "Mr. Walsh," she addressed Brandon, "you're petitioning for emergency guardianship of your mother based on alleged mental incompetence?" "Yes, Your Honor," their lawyer answered. "We have documented incidents of memory loss, confusion, and inability to manage daily tasks." And yet, Judge Gonzalez said, looking at our filings, there's a comprehensive neurological evaluation dated 2 weeks before your petition stating that Mrs. Walsh is cognitively sound. Your Honor, that evaluation was clearly influenced. By whom? A board-certified neurologist with 30 years of experience? The judge's tone was dry. Mr. Fitzgerald, your response includes some serious allegations. Tom stood. Yes, Your Honor. We have evidence of attempted financial fraud, identity theft, and a pattern of elder abuse. We believe this guardianship petition is motivated by financial gain, not concern for my client's welfare. That's ridiculous, Tiffany started to say. Mrs. Walsh, the judge said sharply, you'll have your turn to speak. Tom presented everything. The credit card fraud attempt, the security footage of Tiffany going through my files, the recordings of their conversations demanding I sell my house, the timeline showing how their concern only appeared after I refused to give them money. Brandon's face went pale. Their lawyer tried to object, but Judge Gonzalez silenced him. Mrs. Walsh, she turned to me. I'd like to hear from you directly. Do you feel you're capable of managing your own affairs? I stood up, my knees shaking but my voice steady. Your Honor, I am 71 years old. I worked as a registered nurse for 40 years. I raised my son alone after my husband died. I built my house with my own hands. I manage my finances. I volunteer at my church. I walk 3 miles every morning, and I maintain my property. I am not incompetent. I am not confused. I am simply refusing to let my son and his wife steal my life savings, and they are punishing me for it. The courtroom was silent. Your Honor, Tom added, we're requesting dismissal of the guardianship petition with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. We're also requesting a restraining order and asking the court to refer this matter to the district attorney for investigation of elder abuse. Judge Gonzalez looked at Brandon and Tiffany. Do you have any actual medical evidence of your mother's incompetence? Their lawyer shuffled papers. We have witness statements about concerning behaviors. From whom? From my clients. No independent witnesses? No medical professionals? No documentation beyond your client's self-serving statements? No, Your Honor. Judge Gonzalez closed the file. Petition dismissed with prejudice. Mr. Walsh, Mrs. Walsh, I am granting the restraining order. You are prohibited from contacting Mrs. Evelyn Walsh or entering her property. I am also referring this matter to the district attorney's office. Attempted guardianship fraud is a serious crime. She looked at me. Mrs. Walsh, I apologize that you had to go through this. The court finds you to be fully competent and capable. I sat down, suddenly dizzy with relief. It was over. I had won. But then Brandon stood up. Mom, please. I'm sorry. We made a mistake. Can we just talk? No, I said clearly. You called me a parasite in my own home. You tried to steal my life. You kept my grandchildren from me. There is nothing left to talk about. As we left the courthouse, I saw Tiffany crying and Brandon looking shell-shocked. I felt no satisfaction, only exhaustion and grief. Tom put a hand on my shoulder. You did it, Evelyn. You protected yourself. Now what? I asked. Now you live your life, on your terms. The district attorney did investigate. 3 months later, Brandon and Tiffany were charged with attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person and identity theft. They took a plea deal, probation, fines, and mandatory restitution of the $15,000 they'd borrowed and never repaid, plus my legal fees. But the real vindication came 4 months after the hearing. I filed for grandparents' rights visitation, and given the documented abuse and the criminal charges, the court granted me supervised visits with Harper and Noah twice a month. The first visit was at a neutral location with a social worker present. The kids ran to me, crying and holding on to me like I might disappear. Grandma, we missed you so much, Noah said. I missed you too, baby. So much. They told me about school, about their friends, about the things they'd wanted to share with me over the past months. Harper whispered that she'd kept a journal of everything she wanted to tell me. When the visit ended, Harper hugged me tight. "You fought for us," she said. "Mom said you were being mean and selfish, but you were fighting to see us, weren't you?" "Every single day," I told her. Now, 6 months later, my life has found a new rhythm. I still take my morning walks with Ruth and my other friends from Silver Warriors. I still volunteer at the church. I still live in my beach house, the one I built with my own hands. Brandon sent me one letter, delivered through his lawyer. It said he was sorry, that he'd been pressured by Tiffany, that he missed me. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Harper and Noah visit regularly now. The supervised requirement was dropped after 3 months when it became clear there were no safety concerns. They stay overnight sometimes, and I'm teaching them the same things I taught their father: how to cook, how to manage money, how to be strong and independent. I also started volunteering with an elder advocacy group. I help other elderly people who are facing what I faced: children who see them as bank accounts instead of parents, legal battles for their own autonomy, the loneliness of being betrayed by the people who are supposed to love you most. My story isn't unique. Every week I meet another person going through the same thing, but more and more of us are fighting back. We're documenting, lawyering up, and refusing to be discarded. I changed my will. Brandon is still a beneficiary, but it's a small fixed amount. The bulk of my estate is split between Harper and Noah, held in trust until they turn 30. There's also a substantial donation to the Elder Advocacy Group and a fund to help elderly people afford legal representation in abuse cases. My house, my beautiful beach house, will be sold when I'm gone, and the proceeds will fund scholarships for single mothers returning to nursing school. Women like I was, desperate, determined, and deserving of a chance. Sometimes I stand on my deck at sunset and think about everything that happened. I think about the son I raised versus the man he became. I think about how close I came to losing everything. I think about all the elderly people who don't have Ruth's warning, Tom's expertise, or the strength to fight back. Mostly, I think about Harper telling me I fought for them. Because that's what we do. We fight. Even when we're 71 and exhausted and heartbroken, we fight for what's right. We fight for our dignity. We fight for our autonomy. We fight for the people we love. They thought I was just some old woman they could manipulate and discard. They learned different. I built my world from nothing once. I was prepared to do it again, and I won. Would you have forgiven them? Or would you have stood your ground like I did? Sometimes I wonder if younger people understand what it's like to be treated as invisible in your own family, to have the children you sacrificed everything for look at you and see only dollar signs. I wonder if they understand that we're still people, still deserving of respect and dignity, even if our hair is gray and our hands shake sometimes. What do you think? Is there ever a point when you should just forgive family, no matter what they've done, or are there some betrayals that can never be mended?